The mysterious proposal. The spaceship Orion's Edge moved silently through the cold darkness of space. Captain Ryan Carter, a human explorer, sat in the cockpit, watching the glowing blue planet ahead. His ship had picked up a distress signal from this unknown world. The signal was old, weak, but still active. It was his job to investigate. Ryan had been in space for years. He had seen strange things, alien creatures, lost planets, even deadly battles. But something about this signal felt different. It was too perfect, like a trap waiting to be triggered. Still, curiosity pushed him forward. As he entered the planet's atmosphere, his ship's AI system gave a warning. Unknown energy field detected. Shields at 40%. Ryan frowned. This planet had advanced technology. That was not normal for unknown worlds. He gripped the controls and carefully landed in an open valley near a golden palace. The structure was massive, glowing under the planet's twin suns. What kind of distress call comes from a palace? He muttered to himself. The moment he stepped out of his ship, he felt something watching him. The air was warm, filled with a sweet, unfamiliar scent. Suddenly, tall armored figures surrounded him. Their eyes glowed, their silver weapons aimed at his chest. Ryan stayed calm. He had dealt with aliens before. Running would only make things worse. One of the warriors, taller than the rest, stepped forward. His armor was darker, more decorated. He spoke in perfect English. "The princess awaits you, human." Ryan's eyebrows raised. A princess. This was getting weirder by the second. He had no choice but to follow. The golden palace was even more impressive inside. The walls were covered in strange glowing symbols. Soft music played from somewhere, making the place feel like a dream. But Ryan knew better. He was being led into something dangerous. At the end of a long hallway, two giant doors opened. Inside was a grand throne room. A woman sat on an enormous chair made of some glowing crystal. She was unlike anything Ryan had ever seen. Her skin was a deep shade of violet, smooth like polished metal. Her silver hair floated gently, as if touched by an invisible breeze. Her eyes were golden, bright and sharp. She wore an elegant, shimmering robe, and a crown of thin metal bands rested on her forehead. She was beautiful, but there was something dangerous about her. "Welcome, Captain Ryan Carter," she said, her voice smooth but commanding. Ryan crossed his arms. "You know my name." The princess smiled. "I know everything about you. I have been watching you for a long time." Ryan stiffened, watching him. "How?" "I am Princess Serafina of Zedfor," she continued, "and I have chosen you." Ryan's heart skipped a beat. "Chosen me? For what?" Serafina leaned forward, her golden eyes locked onto his. "You will be my mate." For a moment, Ryan thought he had misheard. His mind struggled to process what she had just said. He let out a short, sharp laugh. "You're joking, right?" Serafina did not laugh. Her expression remained serious. "I do not joke, human. You are now part of a sacred ritual. The laws of my world are clear. A princess must choose a worthy mate, and I have decided that you are the one." Ryan took a step back. "No offense, but I'm not interested in marrying a complete stranger, especially on an alien planet." The moment he spoke, the guards tensed, gripping their weapons. Ryan noticed their hands tightening around the hilts. Serafina sighed. "I expected this reaction." She stood up, walking slowly toward him. Her presence was overwhelming, her golden eyes studying him like a puzzle. "Let me explain, Captain. This is not a simple marriage proposal. This is a matter of survival." Ryan narrowed his eyes. "Survival? If you refuse," she said, her voice turning cold, "you will not leave this planet alive." Silence filled the grand throne room. Ryan clenched his fists. "Are you threatening me?" Serafina shook her head. "Not a threat. A fact. Our ancient laws demand that a princess must be bonded. Any outsider who refuses does not live to tell the tale." Ryan's mind raced. This was insane. He had walked straight into a deadly trap. "If I say yes, what happens?" he asked cautiously. Serafina's lips curled into a smile. "You will have power beyond your imagination. As my chosen mate, you will share my throne. My empire will be yours." Ryan exhaled slowly. "And if I say no?" Serafina's smile faded. The guards took another step forward. "Then you will fight for your freedom." Ryan looked around the room. His instincts screamed that this was a no-win situation. Either he married an alien princess, or he fought in some kind of deadly arena. Neither option seemed good. But Ryan Carter was not a man who gave up easily. He looked into Serafina's golden eyes and smirked. "Well, princess, I hope your arena is ready, because I don't plan on getting married today." Serafina tilted her head, a flicker of amusement in her eyes. "Very well, human. Let the challenge begin." The doors behind Ryan slammed shut, and in that moment, he realized. This was just the beginning. The deadly traditions. The heavy doors behind Ryan slammed shut, echoing through the grand throne room like a final sentence. His instincts screamed at him. He had walked straight into a trap, and now there was no way out. Princess Serafina remained standing, her golden eyes calm yet sharp, watching him like a predator sizing up its prey. The guards around him gripped their weapons, waiting for a single command. Ryan took a slow breath. He needed to think fast. "Let me get this straight," he said, his voice steady. "You sent out a fake distress signal just to bring me here. And now you expect me to marry you." Serafina didn't even blink. "It was not fake. The distress is real, but not in the way you think." Ryan narrowed his eyes. "What does that mean?" Serafina stepped closer, her movements smooth, almost floating. "This planet, Zephyr, is not as peaceful as it appears," she said. "There are those who seek to steal my throne. If I do not bond with a mate soon, my claim to the crown will be challenged." Ryan let out a dry laugh. "And what does that have to do with me?" Serafina's lips curled slightly. "You are human. You are a warrior. You are strong. And most importantly, you are unexpected." Ryan didn't like the sound of that. He had been in too many war zones, too many political power struggles to know what this meant. He wasn't a husband. He was a pawn. "Let me make this easy for you, princess," he said. "I'm not interested. Find another suitor." The air in the room grew heavy. The guards shifted slightly, as if readying for action. Serafina sighed, tilting her head. "I had hoped you would see reason," she murmured. "But I understand your hesitation. That is why we have alternatives." Ryan's muscles tensed. "What kind of alternatives?" Serafina gestured, and a massive iron door in the side of the throne room rumbled open. From the shadows emerged two Zephyrian warriors, dragging a large, struggling figure. The alien prisoner's arms were chained, his body covered in deep scars. Ryan frowned. Something about this didn't sit right. The prisoner lifted his head. His face was battered, but his eyes burned with fury. Another human. Ryan took a step forward, shock flickering across his face. The man looked at him and gritted his teeth. "Don't trust them," he rasped. "They'll use you, and if you refuse, they'll throw you into the arena, just like they did to me." Ryan's stomach dropped. So this had happened before. Serafina barely reacted. She raised her hand, and the guard struck the prisoner across the face, forcing him to his knees. He refused, Serafina said simply, and now he will face the trial of beasts. Ryan clenched his fists. Trial of beasts. That didn't sound pleasant. "What is this trial?" he asked slowly. Serafina smiled slightly, but there was no warmth in it. "A challenge," she said. "A fight to the death. If you refuse my proposal, you must prove your worth in combat. Only the strong have the right to leave Zephyr alive." Ryan exhaled sharply. So it was either marry her or fight. His eyes flickered to the other human. still on his knees, blood dripping from his face. How many others had come before him? "And if I win?" Ryan asked. Seraphina's golden eyes gleamed. "Then you may take anything you desire." That made Ryan pause. "Anything. And if I lose?" Seraphina's smile vanished. "Then you die." Ryan's heartbeat thudded in his chest. He had fought before. He had killed before. But something told him that this fight would not be like any battle he had ever faced. Seraphina turned, flicking her wrist. The guards immediately dragged the wounded human away. "Wait." Ryan stepped forward. "What happens to him?" Seraphina didn't look back. "He will fight in the arena at dawn." "And me?" She stopped at the throne and glanced at him over her shoulder. "You have until sunrise to decide." With a wave of her hand, the guards grabbed Ryan's arms, dragging him from the throne room. He didn't struggle. Not yet. But his mind was already racing. A prisoner in the palace, Ryan was thrown into a large chamber, the doors locking behind him. The room was luxurious, far better than any prison cell he had ever seen. A grand bed, a glowing table filled with exotic food, even a pool of steaming water. But Ryan knew a golden cage was still a cage. He paced the room, his fists clenching and unclenching. He had a decision to make. Marry a powerful alien princess and be tied to an empire I don't understand, or fight some unknown beast and probably die. Neither option was good, but Ryan had never been the type to surrender. Then, a soft knock echoed against the door. Ryan turned sharply. The door creaked open, and a young Zotforian woman stepped inside. She wasn't a guard, and she wasn't royalty. Her clothes were simple, her face shadowed with concern. "You're the human," she whispered. Ryan frowned. "And you are." The woman stepped closer. She had violet skin, like Seraphina, but her eyes were not golden. They were a deep, dark blue. "My name is Lyra. I am a palace servant, and I am here to warn you." Ryan's gut tightened. "Warn me about what?" Lyra glanced nervously at the walls, as if afraid someone was listening. Then she leaned closer and whispered, "The trial is a lie." Ryan's blood ran cold. "What do you mean?" Lyra's hands trembled. "No one has ever won the trial of beasts. The moment you enter the arena, you are already dead." A slow, sinking feeling filled Ryan's chest. "Then why does Seraphina offer it?" he asked. Lyra looked at him, sadness in her eyes. "Because she already knows the outcome." Ryan exhaled sharply. His fate was sealed the moment he landed on this planet. But Ryan Carter was not a man who accepted fate. "Then I guess I'll just have to change the outcome," he muttered. Lyra's eyes widened. "You don't understand. The beast you will face is—" The sound of marching footsteps interrupted her. "Guards." Lyra took a step back. "They're coming." Ryan clenched his jaw. He had made his decision. Let them come. The doors swung open, and the guards stepped inside. "The trial begins at dawn," one of them announced. Ryan rolled his shoulders. He was ready. Or at least, he hoped he was. The escape plan. Ryan Carter sat on the edge of the luxurious bed, staring at the flickering blue lights embedded in the walls of his gilded prison. He had been in tough situations before, but this was different. On one side, a forced marriage to an alien princess, a lifetime bound to a woman he barely knew, tied to an empire he didn't understand. On the other, a trial designed to kill him, a battle against an unknown creature in an arena where no one had ever survived. His options were suicide or slavery. Neither sat well with him. Ryan rubbed his temples. No, there had to be another way. The forbidden passage. A soft knock at the door made him look up. Lyra, the mysterious servant girl who had warned him about the trial, peeked inside. "We don't have much time," she whispered, stepping in quickly and closing the door behind her. Ryan watched her cautiously. He didn't trust anyone here, but she had been the only one to warn him about the truth. "Why are you helping me?" he asked. crossing his arms. Lyra hesitated. Because I know what happens to those who refuse the princess. I have seen it before. You are not the first human to come here. Ryan's chest tightened. What happened to the others? Lyra lowered her gaze. They fought in the arena. They all died. Ryan clenched his fists. Of course. Serafina had sent the same signal before. She had done this before. And no one has ever won? He asked, his voice hard. Lyra shook her head. The trial is not meant to be won. It is meant to remove threats. Ryan took a deep breath. That meant only one thing. He had to escape. There must be a way out, he said, standing up. Lyra hesitated, then glanced toward the walls. There is, but it is dangerous. Ryan almost laughed. Dangerous. He was already standing on the edge of death. Show me, he said firmly. Lyra swallowed hard, then moved toward a panel in the wall. She pressed her hand against it, and with a faint hum, the panel slid open, revealing a dark, narrow tunnel. Ryan raised an eyebrow. Secret passages. Fancy. Lyra gave a nervous smile. They were built long ago. Hardly anyone remembers them now. But they lead beyond the palace walls. Ryan nodded. This was his chance. He stepped toward the passage. But Lyra grabbed his wrist. Wait, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. You don't understand. Even if you escape the palace, you will still be on Zyphor. And Serafina, she does not let go of what she claims. Ryan looked down at her hand, then back at her face. What are you saying? Lyra took a shaky breath. She will hunt you. There is no place in this empire where you can hide from her. Ryan's jaw tightened. Then I won't hide. I'll leave the planet. Lyra's expression turned pained. That may be impossible. Ryan frowned. My ship is still out there. If I can reach it, I can fly out of here. Lyra shook her head. No. Serafina ordered your ship to be locked in the royal hangar. It is heavily guarded. Ryan exhaled through his nose. Of course she had. She was smart. She wasn't just a spoiled royal. She was a ruler who knew how to control a game. Then what's the plan? He asked. Because I'm not staying here. Lyra bit her lip. There might be another way. But it is risky. Ryan smirked. I like risky. The heist for freedom. Lyra led Ryan through the dark, winding passageways, the cold walls closing in on them. The air smelled of damp stone, dust, and old secrets. Where are we going? Ryan whispered. To someone who can help, Lyra replied. But you must trust me. Ryan didn't reply. He didn't trust anyone. But right now, he had no choice. After several minutes, they emerged in a hidden chamber, a room filled with strange machines, holographic maps, and weapons. A group of Zyphorians turned as they entered. Ryan immediately tensed, ready for a fight. Easy, Lyra said. They are rebels. They do not serve Serafina. A tall alien man stepped forward, his violet skin covered in scars, his eyes sharp with intelligence. This is Keldrin, Lyra introduced. He was once a royal commander. Now he fights against the throne. Keldrin studied Ryan for a long moment. Then he smiled grimly. So this is the human Serafina has chosen, he said, voice rough. You must be either very brave or very foolish. A bit of both, Ryan muttered. Keldrin crossed his arms. You wish to escape the planet. That's right. Keldrin nodded. Then listen carefully. The royal hangar is impenetrable. The only way you're getting in is during the trial of beasts. Ryan narrowed his eyes. What do you mean? Keldrin gestured to a large holographic display of the arena. The trial is public. Hundreds will attend. During the battle, all security forces will be focused on the arena. That is when you strike. Ryan stared at the map. The plan was insane. Fight a monster while also breaking into the hangar. You will need a distraction, Keldrin continued. And we can provide one. Ryan's eyes met Lyra's. She nodded. You fight the beast, keep the crowd's attention. Meanwhile, we infiltrate the hangar and unlock your ship. And if I die in the arena? Ryan asked dryly. Keldron smirked. Then you won't need to worry about escaping. Ryan exhaled sharply. This was madness. But madness was better than doing nothing. Fine, he said. Let's do it. A calm before the storm. As dawn approached, Ryan sat in the waiting chamber beside the arena, rolling his shoulders, feeling the weight of what was coming. Outside, he could hear the roar of the crowd, thousands of Zephyrians waiting to see him die. Guards entered. It is time. Ryan stood, rolling his neck. Let's give them a show. As he stepped into the blinding light of the grand arena, he had only one thought. Survive. Escape. And never look back. The royal conspiracy. The roar of the Zephyrian crowd was deafening. The grand arena stretched out before Ryan, a massive coliseum with towering walls and gleaming metal gates. Thousands of alien spectators filled the stands, their eyes locked onto the sandy battlefield below. Above them, in a lavish royal balcony, sat Princess Seraphina. She was dressed in ceremonial armor, a flowing dark robe draped over her shoulders. Her golden eyes gleamed as she watched Ryan step forward. Let the trial begin, she announced, her voice carrying through the arena. A massive gate rumbled open, revealing an enormous Xorgath beast, a monstrous reptilian creature with 6 glowing red eyes, razor-sharp claws, and a mouth lined with jagged teeth. Ryan exhaled sharply. He had faced dangerous enemies before, but this thing looked like it ate warriors for breakfast. Great, he muttered. Why is it always monsters? The beast let out a thunderous roar, shaking the ground beneath Ryan's feet. Then it charged. A fight for survival. Ryan rolled to the side just as the beast's claws slammed into the ground, leaving a deep crater where he had been standing. Fast, Ryan muttered, getting back on his feet. He didn't have a weapon, only his wits and his speed. The Xorgath turned and lunged again. Ryan dodged, but the creature's tail whipped around, striking him in the chest. He flew backward, slamming into the ground, coughing hard. The crowd cheered for blood. Ryan groaned, pushing himself up. He needed to think, and fast. Above him, Seraphina watched with interest. Do you see, my people? She said, her voice carrying through the arena. A true warrior fights not for survival, but for honor. Let us see if this human is worthy. Ryan spat blood and narrowed his eyes. Honor. This wasn't a test of honor. This was a public execution disguised as tradition. The beast charged again, its massive claws ready to strike. This time, Ryan was ready. At the last second, he sidestepped, using his momentum to jump onto the creature's back. The Xorgath snarled, thrashing wildly, trying to throw him off. Hold still, you ugly bastard. Ryan grunted, grabbing onto the bony ridges on its neck. He spotted a weak spot, the back of its skull, just above the spine. If he had a weapon, he could end this fight now. Just then, something clattered near his feet. A dagger, sleek and made of some alien metal. Ryan's eyes flickered up to the balcony. Lyra. She had thrown it when no one was looking. He grabbed the dagger, tightened his grip, and plunged it into the beast's weak spot. The Xorgath let out a final ear-splitting screech before collapsing onto the ground with a heavy thud. For a moment, there was silence. Then the crowd exploded in shock. Ryan had won. The unfinished game. Ryan stood over the beast's lifeless body, catching his breath. He had done the impossible. He turned toward Seraphina. I won the trial. Let me go. But Seraphina only smiled. You have proven yourself, Captain, she said. But this was only the first test. Ryan's stomach twisted. What? The trial of beasts is only the beginning, Seraphina continued. A true warrior does not fight just one battle. He fights many. Ryan's hands clenched into fists. He should have known. She never planned to let him leave. The crowd was still roaring when a sudden explosion shook the arena. Smoke filled the sky. In the distance, the royal hangar was under attack. The rebels had started their part of the plan. Lyra had warned him that Serafina would never let him leave willingly. Now, it was time to act. Ryan turned and bolted toward the arena gates, using the chaos to his advantage. Guards rushed forward, but he was faster. He grabbed a fallen spear, spinning it as he knocked down one of the approaching warriors. "Stop him," Serafina commanded. Ryan gritted his teeth. He had to reach the hangar. But before he could escape, a shadow loomed over him. A new figure stepped into the arena. A tall Zyphorian warrior in black and red armor. His face was hidden behind a sleek metal mask, but his presence alone made the entire arena fall silent. Ryan instinctively knew this was not a normal opponent. "Who the hell is that?" he muttered. Serafina stood, her golden eyes burning. "This is my brother, Lord Malachar. And if you wish to leave this planet, you must defeat him." Ryan let out a breath. Of course, the real fight was just beginning. The conspiracy unfolds. As Ryan faced Malachar, Lyra and the rebels moved through the palace, hacking through security locks and disabling the shipyard's defenses. "We don't have much time," Keldrin whispered. "Serafina will send reinforcements soon." Lyra's fingers flew across a control panel. "Ryan has to hold them off until we break into the hangar. If he doesn't..." She didn't finish the sentence. Keldrin turned to the others. "Be ready. Whether he wins or not, we take that ship." Back in the arena, Malachar unsheathed a long curved blade, the metal pulsing with an eerie glow. "I have heard of you, human," Malachar said, his voice cold. "But you are nothing compared to me." Ryan smirked, adjusting his grip on the spear. "Yeah? Then why do you sound scared?" Malachar's eyes narrowed. Then he lunged forward. Ryan barely had time to react as Malachar's blade sliced through the air, missing his throat by inches. The real battle had begun. The gladiator duel. The grand arena fell into a tense silence as Ryan Carter faced Lord Malachar, the armored warrior standing between him and his freedom. The crowd, moments ago roaring with excitement, now held its breath, sensing the battle about to unfold. High above them, Princess Serafina sat on her throne, golden eyes glinting with amusement. "You fought well against the beast, Captain," she called out. "But this will not be the same. My brother is a true warrior. And unlike the Torgoth, he will enjoy killing you." Ryan smirked, rolling his shoulders. "Yeah. Then I guess I'll have to disappoint him." Malachar didn't waste time. With lightning speed, he lunged forward, his curved energy blade slashing through the air. Ryan barely managed to duck, the heat of the plasma edge singing his cheek as it passed. Ryan countered, spinning his stolen spear and striking toward Malachar's midsection. But the warrior sidestepped effortlessly, then slammed his armored fist into Ryan's ribs. Ryan staggered backward, gasping for air. "You are slow," Malachar said, his voice calm. "Weak." Ryan gritted his teeth. "And you talk too much." He rushed forward, using the spear's long reach to strike at Malachar's legs. The Zyphorian blocked the attack, but Ryan was already moving, twisting, feinting, and aiming for the gaps in Malachar's armor. The clash of weapons echoed through the arena as they exchanged rapid strikes, their movements a deadly dance of skill and instinct. But Malachar was stronger, faster. Ryan was losing. The hidden betrayal. As Ryan fought for his life, Lyra and the rebels moved through the palace corridors, approaching the royal hangar where Ryan's ship was being held. "How long until the security systems reset?" Keldrin whispered. Lyra's fingers flew across a control panel. "I've disabled the alarms, but the guards will still be patrolling. We have to move fast." The rebels spread out, taking down security personnel with silent efficiency. The hangar was heavily fortified, but Lyra had spent years as a servant in the palace. She knew its secrets. But just as they reached the final security gate, Lyra froze. A figure stood blocking their path. Serafina. She had anticipated the betrayal. "Did you really think I wouldn't know?" the princess said, her golden eyes cold. "Lyra, you disappoint me." The rebels raised their weapons, but Serafina merely smiled, and from the shadows, her elite royal guards emerged, their weapons trained on the intruders. "Kill the traitors," she ordered. The turning point. Back in the arena, Ryan was on the defensive, barely dodging Malakar's deadly attacks. His muscles burned, his breath came in ragged gasps. Malakar struck low, and Ryan leaped over the sweep, flipping backward. But the moment his feet touched the ground, Malakar was already there, his blade slashing toward Ryan's neck. Ryan barely blocked with his spear, the force sending him skidding across the sand. "Enough," Malakar growled. He lashed out, knocking the spear from Ryan's hands. The weapon clattered across the arena floor, far out of reach. Ryan rolled away, but Malakar was on him in seconds, pressing a boot to his chest and holding the plasma blade inches from his throat. The crowd roared. They could smell the kill. "Your fight is over, human," Malakar said, pressing down harder. "Any last words?" Ryan, struggling under Malakar's weight, grinned through bloody teeth. "Yeah," he rasped. "I hope you're ready for a distraction." Malakar's eyes narrowed. "What?" Suddenly, a massive explosion rocked the palace. Smoke and fire erupted from the royal hangar. The sound of blaring alarms filled the air. The rebellion had begun. The Great Escape. The distraction worked. As the arena shook from the explosion, Malakar hesitated for just a second, but that was all Ryan needed. With a surge of adrenaline, Ryan thrust his knee into Malakar's stomach, throwing him off balance. Then, with all his strength, Ryan grabbed a handful of sand and flung it into Malakar's eyes. Malakar staggered back, blinded, cursing in rage. Ryan rolled, grabbed his fallen spear, and in one swift motion, he swung it hard, slamming the shaft against Malakar's head. The warrior collapsed, stunned. Ryan didn't waste time. He bolted toward the arena gates, using the chaos to his advantage. Guards were distracted, the crowd was in panic, and explosions continued to rock the palace. He sprinted through the corridors, heading for the hangar. The plan was working. Until it wasn't. Serafina's final move. Ryan burst into the hangar, just as Lyra and the rebels were finishing off the last of the guards. His ship, Orion's Edge, was prepped and ready. "Ryan," Lyra shouted. "Hurry, we don't have much time." Ryan ran toward the ship, and then Serafina appeared, standing at the base of the ramp, blocking his path. Her golden eyes were unreadable. "You fought well, Captain," she said, her voice calm. "But you cannot leave. Not yet." Ryan gripped his spear tightly. "Try and stop me, Princess." Serafina tilted her head. "I don't need to." From behind her, Malakar emerged, bloody, furious, but still standing. Ryan's heart pounded. He was so close to escape. But he had one last fight left to win. The ultimate choice. The royal hangar burned. Smoke filled the air, alarms blared, and the sound of distant battles raged across the palace. The rebellion had begun, and chaos had swallowed the once glorious Zyphorian stronghold. But at the heart of it all, Ryan Carter stood frozen, his path to freedom blocked by two impossible obstacles. Princess Serafina, Lord Malakar. His ship was right there, the open ramp inviting him toward escape, but Serafina, standing at its base, refused to let him leave. Behind her, Malakar limped forward, blood dripping from a fresh wound on his temple, but his golden eyes still burned with fury. "You are persistent, human," Malakar growled, raising his energy blade once more. Ryan's grip tightened around the spear in his hands. He was tired, bleeding, his muscles screaming in pain. But he wasn't done yet. "I told you," Ryan exhaled, rolling his shoulders. I don't lose. Malachar lunged first, swinging his glowing blade in a deadly arc. Ryan dodged, barely escaping the plasma edge. He twisted his body, using the spear to deflect the next strike. Sparks flew as metal clashed against energy. Serafina watched silently, her expression unreadable. Ryan had no time to focus on her. Malachar pressed forward, relentless, his attacks faster, sharper, fueled by sheer rage. You should have accepted her offer. Malachar snarled, his strikes pushing Ryan back step by step. Ryan gritted his teeth, ducking beneath a horizontal slash before countering with a brutal spear thrust, aiming right for Malachar's exposed side. The warrior twisted at the last second, but Ryan's attack grazed his ribs, drawing blood. Malachar stumbled, and Ryan saw his opening. He charged, slamming the butt of the spear into Malachar's chest, knocking him off his feet. The Zyphorian crashed against the hangar wall, groaning in pain. For the first time, Ryan had him down. This was his moment. Ryan spun toward Serafina, gripping his weapon. She was the last obstacle standing between him and freedom. Serafina met his gaze, her golden eyes steady. She did not raise a weapon. She did not call for her guards. Instead, she simply asked, "Are you really going to leave?" Ryan hesitated. Of all the things she could have said, he hadn't expected that. The truth behind the throne. "You tried to kill me," Ryan said, voice laced with anger. "You sent me into that arena to die. Why the hell would I stay?" Serafina's lips curved into the smallest smile. "Because you still don't understand." Ryan tightened his grip on his spear. "Enlighten me, princess, because I'm really out of patience." Serafina stepped forward, slowly, deliberately. "I never wanted you dead, Captain. I wanted you tested, to see if you were strong enough to survive, not just for me, but for my people." Ryan frowned. Strong enough for what? Serafina glanced around at the burning palace, the chaos of the rebellion unfolding around them. "My kingdom is on the brink of civil war," she said, her voice quieter now. "The nobles conspire against me. My enemies grow stronger every day. And without a true ruler to unite Zyphor, everything will fall apart." Ryan shook his head. "That's not my problem." Serafina sighed. "You think I chose you randomly. You think I sent that distress signal to every passing traveler." Ryan's breath caught. Something about her tone made his pulse quicken. "What are you saying?" he asked. Serafina tilted her head. "I know who you are, Ryan Carter. A soldier. A survivor. The leader. I chose you because you have the strength to do what I cannot." Ryan's chest tightened. "And what exactly do you want me to do?" Serafina's next words sent a chill down his spine. "I don't want you to marry me, Captain." She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "I want you to overthrow me." The impossible proposition. Ryan blinked. Of all the things he had expected her to say, this was not on the list. "You want me to what?" he said, his mind racing. Serafina's eyes burned with something unreadable. "My rule is weak. The nobles will never accept me unless I prove my strength. If I defeat my enemies, they will claim I used trickery. But if I lose to you, a powerful outsider, a warrior unlike any Zyphorian, then I can reclaim my throne by taking it back myself." Ryan exhaled sharply. "You're insane." Serafina smirked. "Perhaps. But tell me, Captain, would you rather run, only to be hunted for the rest of your life, or would you rather take control of this game and win?" Ryan clenched his jaw. This wasn't what he had signed up for. He had come here looking for a distress signal, not a throne. But Serafina wasn't wrong. If he left, she wouldn't stop coming for him. Neither would Malachar, or the nobles. If he wanted true freedom, he had to end this his way. "And if I said yes?" Ryan asked. Serafina's eyes gleamed. "Then we make it look real. You fight me. You defeat me. You take the throne. And then, when the time is right, I will take it back, stronger than before." Ryan stared at her, searching for any sign of deception. But all he saw was determination. A slow grin spread across his face. "Fine," he said, flipping his spear in his hands. "Let's make this look good." The fight for the throne. Ryan charged forward, and Serafina met him head-on. The final battle had begun. The final decision, and twist ending. The royal hangar trembled with the force of explosions, the scent of burning metal thick in the air. Smoke curled toward the ceiling as Ryan Carter and Princess Serafina clashed in battle, a battle that could decide the fate of an entire planet. The crowd outside the arena still chanted his name, unaware of the deeper game being played behind closed doors. Ryan wasn't just fighting for his freedom anymore. He was fighting to overthrow Serafina. At her own request. Her golden eyes burned with intensity, her bladed staff spinning in fluid deadly arcs. Ryan barely dodged the first strike, countering with a brutal thrust of his spear. Serafina parried, their weapons clashing in a flash of sparking energy. "You need to make it look real," she whispered, voice only loud enough for him to hear. Ryan smirked. "No problem, Princess. Just try to keep up." With a sudden burst of speed, Ryan sidestepped, bringing his spear around in a sweeping strike. Serafina ducked, using her momentum to twist her body and launch a powerful kick into Ryan's ribs. Pain exploded through him as he staggered back. Damn, she wasn't holding back. Serafina pressed forward, her movements sharp and controlled. To anyone watching, it seemed like she was trying to kill him. But Ryan knew better. She was helping him win. Meanwhile, the rebel uprising. Outside, the rebellion was in full force. The Zyphorian rebels, led by Lyra and Keldrin, stormed the palace gates, cutting through royal guards with precise, practiced movements. "We have to secure the throne room," Keldrin shouted, slamming his blade into an enemy soldier before kicking him aside. Lyra ducked behind a pillar, firing a plasma shot into a charging guard. "Ryan's fighting Serafina right now," she said, reloading her weapon. "If he wins, the nobles will have no choice but to recognize him as the new ruler. But if he loses, then everything falls apart," Keldrin finished grimly. They pushed forward, breaking through the final palace defenses. They had one chance to seize control before Serafina's enemies moved in. The fight reaches its climax. Back in the hangar, Ryan and Serafina's battle reached a deadly rhythm. Ryan ducked a swipe from her staff and countered with a vicious elbow to her midsection. Serafina grunted, staggering back, but her lips curled into a smirk. "That all you got, human?" Ryan wiped sweat from his brow. "Just getting warmed up." He launched himself forward, faking a high strike before twisting low and sweeping her legs out from under her. Serafina hit the ground hard, rolling back onto her feet just as Ryan closed in. This was it, the final move. Serafina raised her blade, prepared to block. But Ryan suddenly switched tactics. Instead of striking, he grabbed her wrist, spun her around, and in one fluid motion, threw her over his shoulder, slamming her onto the ground. The impact echoed through the hangar. Serafina groaned, her weapon clattering from her grasp. Ryan pressed his spear to her throat. The air went deathly silent. The Zyphorian nobles, who had rushed in to witness the final duel, stared in shock. Ryan Carter had defeated their princess. By Zyphorian law, that meant one thing. "The human has won," one of the nobles whispered. "The throne is his." A king's dilemma. Ryan breathed heavily, looking down at Serafina. He had done it. He had won. He could take control of Zyphor right now. He could rewrite the laws, reshape the planet, and ensure that no more humans fell into the same trap he did. The power was his. But did he want it? Serafina met his gaze, her golden eyes filled with unspoken words. She had orchestrated this entire thing. She had brought him here, forced him into battle, and pushed him to victory, all so she could lose on purpose. And now it was his decision to make. Did he claim the throne, or did he leave Zyphor behind forever? Twist ending. The final betrayal. Before Ryan could answer, a shout rang out from the crowd. "Stop him!" Ryan turned just in time to see Lord Malachar, bloody, battered, but still standing, charging toward him, sword raised. "You think I will let a human take our throne?" Malachar roared. Ryan barely had time to react before Malachar swung his blade. But before the strike could land, Seraphina moved. She lunged upward, grabbing Ryan's spear from the ground, and drove it straight into Malachar's chest. The noble gasped, blood pouring from his wound. He stumbled back, looking at Seraphina in disbelief. "You would betray your own blood for him," he rasped. Seraphina's expression was cold and unreadable. "No, brother," she whispered. "I did it for Zyphor." Malachar collapsed, his eyes still locked onto Seraphina as the life faded from them. Ryan let out a slow breath. It was over. The aftermath. A new future. The battle had ended. The rebellion was won. Ryan stood before the Zyphorian council, the air thick with tension. "You defeated the princess," one of the nobles said. "By law, you are now the ruler of Zyphor. What is your command, King Carter?" Ryan glanced at Seraphina, who stood beside him, no longer an enemy, but an equal. She had gambled everything on this plan, and it had worked. Ryan took a deep breath. "First order of business," he said, his voice steady. He turned to Seraphina and smirked. "I abdicate." The nobles gasped. You refused the throne." Ryan nodded. "I was never meant to rule this place, but she was. She fought for this kingdom long before I got here. She deserves to lead it." He turned to Seraphina, holding out his hand. "Make it count, princess." Seraphina's lips parted slightly, surprise flickering across her face, before she let out a soft, knowing laugh. "You are a strange man, Ryan Carter," she murmured. And then, in front of the stunned nobles, she knelt before him. "You have given me my throne back," she said. "Now go. Be free." Ryan stepped back, his heart pounding. For the first time, he was truly free. As he walked toward his waiting ship, Lyra and Keldrin by his side, he looked back one last time, seeing Seraphina standing tall, a ruler reborn. Then, with the stars calling him once more, he stepped into his ship and left Zyphor behind.